Welcome, my friends, to the full experience. The full in full experience stands for first, ultimate, lowest, last. This is a show where we look at a television series, watching just those 4 episodes to see if we can get the flavor, get the gestalt of the entire run. I'm Tom Merritt. He's Brian Brushwood. And today we are talking about A Rose for Lotta, the first episode of Bonanza, which premiered September 12th, 1959.
Dude, first of all, I ended up in a rabbit hole. I found out when color TV was invented. Do you know when color TV was invented?
I had the same thing. I was like, wait, this is colorized, right? Oh, wait, no. Bonanza was color from the start as a promotion for color television.
Well, and you know what's doubly funny is part of the reason it looks insanely colorized is because of the oversaturated reds and greens, which I found out was an artifact of the Eastman color process in the early days of film.
That's amazing. Yeah, my first note was like, I could only find the colorized version. And then I stopped and was like, wait, let me just check. When did Bonanza go color? And it was like from the beginning, nobody could see it because it's only 2 people had a color television. I
have an interesting wrinkle on the ethics of how we're watching it. For those of you who haven't heard the throat clearing before we got to this part, we try to watch everything as legally distributed as possible. In this case, the only legal off-the-shelf way are hundreds of DVDs of all of the episodes spanning, I believe, 16 seasons, over 100 something episodes. But in this case, did you know that a season and a half of Bonanza has lapsed completely into the public domain?
No kidding.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, you could
It's not old enough for the automatic one, which is like 90 years or whatever. How did that happen?
What happened is at the time, and this would have been 1959 is when this came out. At that time, the law was that anything created did not get automatically copyrighted. You had to apply for it and renew it, or after 25 years, it expired. So in that run, the second half of season 1 and all of season 2 lapsed into the public domain, at which point entrepreneurs went out and started making DVDs full of it, absent one little thing they had to cut out. Do you remember what that was?
No, what was that?
The copyrighted theme song, was absent. So instead they just had generic
music rights
Western
are not always part of it. Yeah. That explains something. I looked up Bonanza on the Apple TV app just to see, and it had the second half of season 1 and all of season 2 available.
That's
I now
amazing.
know why. Yeah.
Look at this original boots on the ground journalism. Who would have thought it?
All right, so we watched this on YouTube. It was not a demonetized YouTube stream or anything, as far as we know, and it was color from the start. I was a little confused, I'll be honest. However, they did a good job of clearing up my confusion, and I realized that my confusion was me jumping the gun of like, I want to know, well, you know, where this is set and who this is, whereas the 1959 viewer would have turned it on, probably joining it partway in progress as they put away the dishes or went to the bathroom, and then sat down and like, okay, so where are we? And about that point into the story, like, well, here in Virginia City, you know, and then there's a veiled reference to Lake Tahoe. And I thought it was actually deftly done the way they doled out the information, not only of the setting, but also like, well, Little Joe's the youngest, but why does Hoss have a French accent, you know, like a Cajun accent? And like, oh, it turns out because they all 3 have different mothers, and that they reveal that later in the story. I wasn't expecting the deft way that they explained this, rather than what I'm used to from this era of television, which is, let me just tell you all the things in an info dump right at the beginning.
Well, that's fascinating because I felt like they did do an info dump and then they kept repeating it, which tells me that maybe the conditions under which we watched were a little bit different, because the opening shot is, of course, the first thing I'm doing is trying to figure out, are they on a set or on location? Those shadows don't match. There's multiple light sources. And then I realize, oh, they're definitely outside, which means they had hard bounces coming to fill in the light from all around. But the first thing they say is, the Ponderosa, it sure is great, and us Cartwrights love it. I hope nobody tries to steal it because we don't want it to be gotten. I love all my...
And I immediately was like, well, where are you, though? And they didn't say,
You're right.
Here
You're right.
in Nevada, near
Yes,
good old
okay, I
Lake
see.
Tahoe, us three Cartwrights who are all from different mothers, et cetera, et cetera. So you're not wrong.
You know what's interesting? Okay, so this informs the way I create YouTube videos, is because when I title and thumbnail, and when I think about the audience members, I don't sort myself by outside in. Like where Monorogue headquarters is, it lives in your mind, and it's always golden hour. I care about the feelings, and instantly the first words out of their mouth are pride of where they are in this magical land called Ponderosa, fear of outside demons taking it away from them. And I instantly felt fully anchored, and everything else was just details. Whereas it's interesting that you wanted to center from outside going in.
Which again, I might not, if I was just sitting down to watch TV, I might not have cared. But I'm like, well, I'm going to have to interpret this for full experience. So I need to know, like, where are they? And what was really interesting about that is because I was looking for that stuff, I found it, where usually they would just obfuscate it, right? And I'd have to go look it up and like, well, the backstory was this, and they never really addressed it. But they addressed all of that stuff. They addressed that they were from three different mothers. They addressed that the oldest was a Yankee, and the other two are from the South. And I love the line where Little Joe's like, well, if you don't know why that's a problem, I'm not going to begin to tell you.
What they also addressed it multiple times and at shallow angles. Like it's amazing what they got away with. For 1959, television had to be pretty tame. We're still in nobody in a bed together land. We're still in propriety. We're still in the fact that we see somebody get shot in a gun duel and they have to show that he's okay later.
Yes, I felt stupid later when I realized that I didn't even blink at them killing the guy.
Oh, I did.
1959
I was just
TV
like,
show.
Oh, wow. All right.
And then when they brought it back, I'm like, oh, of course, we're in prime time. You can't. But that was probably risky for 1959 to even leave it in doubt for that long.
For that long, yeah.
Yeah.
And essentially, the first interaction between the brothers is when one of them calls the other, straight up says, your mother is a whore. Now, had to take a bunch of dances around with like, your mother, something of the French Quarter, something. And I'm like, oh, I could piece together where this is headed and why he would react that way.
It's still a little confused why Haas sounded Cajun when his mom was a Swede, and Little Joe was the one from New Orleans.
Oh, I didn't take him as sounding Cajun. Oh, a thing that
in his first few lines, he's got a guarantee kind of Southern accent versus just a Southern accent. I think he maybe was trying to find which accent he was supposed to put on. I'm not sure.
I'll tell you what he eventually found was a hairpiece. In fact, all of them by the end of the run apparently were wearing hairpieces. Haas refused to wear his anywhere except for on screen. He would go out and about with his naturally balding hair. But meanwhile, I think it was Lorne Greene or whoever the older brother is favored his all the time.
Interesting. I found this to be a respectable story. By 1959 standards, almost a B movie level of engagement.
I was absolutely surprised by that as well. I first of all, the opening shot, very expensive. Again, I have to remember that in a monoculture where 1/3 of all humans in the entire country were dialed in at the same time, at the same place, you could afford to spend a lot of money for exterior shots. They apparently reshot that opening twice, originally at one place, then they did it at Lake Tahoe. But it's a rich visual, to be honest. Side by side, not too big a lift between this pilot episode of Bonanza and like Lonesome Dove 20 years later.
Yeah, absolutely. And the acting is variable, but there's some very good acting.
The acting was cartoonishly over the top to me, like just instantly like Tom Merritt, I can't believe you thought that the acting was just okay.
It's not only variable from actor to actor, like it's variable within Lorne Greene. There are some scenes where Lorne Greene is subtle. And like the age of the Cartwrights and his burden as having gone, it's all there and you feel it. And then there's the scene where he just screams a lot, and there's like, it's the shallowest performance ever. It's really odd.
Yeah. But having said all of that, you've got a lot of reintroducing yourselves, reintroducing the idea again and again. They're talking about, whose mother be like what. I
didn't feel like it was that repetitive, but again, maybe I just
they had to do it for each of the brothers, 3 different discussions.
Oh, you're right. It was only done once per brother, but there were 3 different discussions. Yeah.
Yeah. So it became very clear by the end.
What about the fact that Little Joe had to be held at arm's length? We don't know exactly how old he is, but he's the youngest. And so the oldest is allowed to just wade in and kiss the actress.
Oh my God. No, that was actually kind of too much. That smoldering scene where he's just like, you're done playing with little boys, and then just walks over and takes a kiss.
Yeah.
It stretched. I don't know. That felt almost scandalous today, 50 years after the fact.
Now, the depiction of the Chinese members, of course, is extremely problematic by modern standards.
I don't even know compared to Deadwood, how far off from Deadwood is it?
I don't know. I was asking myself that question because there's very, very clearly a Lorne Greene line where he apologizes in a mimicking accent that would not have been in Deadwood either, I don't think. Because
actually, I don't know. It would be in Deadwood because Deadwood was being authentic to that time.
It wouldn't be, but it wouldn't be in Cartwright. He wouldn't have done that if we were doing Deadwood now. Like, I don't know. There's definitely parts of this where I'm like, I don't think they would do that now, but they are giving more agency to those characters than I would have expected from 1959, especially when the villains maliciously burn a structure and the entire Chinese community just starts kicking the crap out of them.
Yeah. Well, that all seems like background, and to my eyes, give or take, accurate time period background. Whether or not you like it or don't like it, that's not the main character of the story.
I don't know that it is accurate. It is very much a caricature, but it is not as much of a caricature as I would have expected.
Yeah.
And if you go look at Deadwood side by side, I think they did a better job of like, that's what the accent might have sounded like.
Oh yeah. No, the accent was rudimentary, but I don't know how they would have gotten more accurate without spending.
In the 50s, it would be problematic for some viewers that you allowed any kind of minority to get the upper hand against 2 white characters. And so that scene stuck out to me. I'm like, oh, okay. They're letting them be. Yes, they're the villains, but they're letting them have that kind of agency. They're giving them credit for being talented at things. Granted, only subservient things, but for the time period, I thought this was interesting to see. It wasn't a subtle, telling of the actual plight, but like you said, that isn't the story they're telling. They're telling the story of the Cartwrights.
Yeah, I found myself digging watching the 3 sons drift into fairly familiar archetypes of the bruiser, the gunslinger, and the rogue archetype. You could kind of get a sense of their stats, their hit points, their strengths and weaknesses.
And it would lurch from like almost a musical comedy scene with Lotta where she like literally sings a number, a full number.
And it was a fine little number. I was thinking, I was really struck.
Into a full on like gun battle in the lobby where they, we're going to draw in 3, 2, it was kind of all over the place genre wise. It was interesting.
The network almost didn't run it. It was extremely expensive, and they almost were like, this is unsustainable. We don't want this to be a hit. They later, for production reasons, and I thought this was a pretty savvy move, eventually all the characters only wear one outfit, the same outfit every single episode. And the reason for that is that gave them flexibility to reuse certain outside shots. It made it more cost effective with the stunt folks, they were able to use various footage creatively, because it's crazy nowadays to remember how expensive shooting by the foot was. So part of the reason the staging is so wide and flat and has all the characters, I was a bit surprised by that, because faces got inches away from each other, and yet the shot remained wide. And after a bit of poking around, the reason for that is because that wide shot you could use, like you definitely had all the characters in there and you had some background, and worst case, you could do a little bit of focusing and blowing stuff up.
You're getting more money for television, although you're still in the 50s, so it's still growing, but you're getting more money all the time, but it costs more. So it almost balances out. Should we bring Amos in? I think Amos watched this as well.
What did you think, Amos?
I'd be very curious to hear Amos's thoughts.
It was more folksy than I remember. Like
I remember it being pretty damn folksy, so that's interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. It was just it felt a little archaic compared to what my memory said from when I was watching it back in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, you were watching on reruns in the 80s.
Yeah. Although I thought it was shot really well. I mean, just the feeling of it, the scene, the sets and things like that felt alive. They didn't feel like just backdrops or whatever else, and they were in the bar. It felt like a bar. And I thought the story was actually fairly interesting for being a pilot. It had, an A story and a B story. It had all the potatoes of the background of giving everybody their time, all that kind of stuff. And I really had a sense of who was who right away. It didn't take hardly any time at all to kind of fall into the show and know who was playing what role, like Brian was saying. I thought it was weird that when they were talking, their head wouldn't move, but their mouth would move. So like their heads were like positioned and they would talk, but like, I don't know, it just seemed odd. And I was thinking it was probably like an artifact of the early colorization, that kind of stuff or whatever. But I don't know. I enjoyed it. I thought it was better I felt it was better than I thought it was going to be.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. I would have guessed, and this is not me remembering, I would have guessed, it's probably set in gold country outside of San Francisco, and everybody's after gold. And I was surprised, and I'm not giving it a huge number of points for this, but I'm like, oh no, it's actually in silver country in Nevada, so it's not going for the obvious thing that everybody would have known about. It's making it a slightly more interesting.
Oh, are you talking about the play being for the trees, not for the silver?
No, I hadn't talked about that yet. I'm just talking about like a stereotypical 50s show would have been like, we're in gold country because everybody knows there was a gold rush, right? And instead it's like, oh no, this is a little more subtle. This is actual Virginia City, Nevada. We're talking about Lake Tahoe. We're talking about silver, not gold, when you might have expected it to be gold. Yeah. Like I said, I'm not giving it huge points for that, but it's like, oh, you're not going for the lowest hanging fruit with your setting. But the trees thing is interesting. I'm glad you brought it up, because I don't know why. I still don't know from this episode why the Cartwrights don't just give some logging rights and make some money off of, other than quote unquote principle. It didn't seem to be an environmental thing though.
No, they said that they needed the trees for their cattle.
Yeah. Because the cattle eat trees.
Yeah,
or they like the trees. They get the cattle. The meat of the cattle is better if they're looking at trees.
Well, it is true. It is true that there are types of grasses that grow with tree covers, and if you strip the trees, then the soil runs off, and then the soil changes, and then that alters. I mean, basically,
if that's the real reason, that's pretty subtle. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. What they have is they have land. So similar,
lots
like we
land.
wouldn't. They have lots of land, but they also
the starry
have
skies above.
Huge tracts of land.
Whether you are a rancher or a farmer, all that extends is the development cycle for your product, right? You still want unspoiled land, in either case.
Yeah, but why not take a little money on when you got 1,000
because
acres
that
or
would
1,000
be
square
spoiling
miles?
the land.
Spoil a little bit of land, the trees will grow back. You make a little money off of it.
Surprising part to me, 1,000 square miles. Do you know how big that is?
Is it 100 by 10?
Why, yes, Brian, that's exactly right. Yeah, no, Amos, you went and tried to get a map to wrap your head around how big that was.
Yeah, it's basically if you drew a square over Dallas Fort Worth metropolitan area, where one side of the square was right downtown Fort Worth and the other side was downtown Dallas, and made that, basically made that a square. It goes from Argyle all the way down past Arlington. That's a huge area for 4 dudes.
Bigger than the lake that it's near.
Yeah, I did one over Lake Tahoe, and it basically covers the entire lake and still has enough land around it that you could feasibly have several ranches.
I'm just saying, they drove the cattle from one end of the Ponderosa to the other. That top end they're not using anymore. Sell a few trees. Come on.
They'll probably regrow by the time they get back up there. Like
exactly.
A massive amount of land for four dudes.
Yeah, so I assume that this episode we had the dastardly devil's forces didn't get the trick of what was their hope, is that they would get one of them in and rob them blind or steal the land or what?
They're going to convince them to sell off some of the.
They were going to take one of the boys hostage and threaten to kill him if he didn't sign an agreement to let him log the land.
Right.
That was the plot.
Yeah, I remember it almost making sense at the time. I believe it.
And they needed the lumber for the mines.
Yeah. For the silver mines, right?
Yeah.
No,
so
that part is true.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I don't know how much lumber you need for a mine just to hold it up or whatever, but that seems.
I also like the idea that the Cartwrights can call up an army of mountain men.
It felt very Game of Thrones-esque. Like, banners.
I don't remember that being. I mean, I remember them having other people that they could call on for help, but yeah, it was sort of like they've got their own private army basically, which lends a whole other aspect to it. Is there any other thoughts about A Rose for Lotta?
I feel like per our full experience lens, this did a very, very good job of anchoring at least what this show set out to be. It is very, very clear. All the character dynamics is very clear. The set pieces and the expectations of production. I'll be interested to know whether that perceived quality of production goes up or down as we navigate our way through it, because on the one hand, certain technologies are going to get cheaper so that it'll make sense to do like helicopter shots and that kind of stuff. Because I assume we didn't see it in this, but it'll be interesting to see what's different.
Yeah. We are going to put that to the test in The Wish. We're going to jump all the way to season 10, episode 23 for the lowest rated on IMDb episode, The Wish. So
wait, hold on. I thought it was Ultimate.
Oh, I'm sorry. The highest rated. Did I say lowest? I said highest rated episode.
Season 10, episode 3.
Season 10, episode 23, The Wish is our next episode. And it was in 1969. So yeah, we're gonna do it out of order because we follow the FULL. So we'll do the ultimate, and then we'll go back to season 7, episode 10 for the lowest ranked, the strange one. And then the episode that wraps it all up is season 14, ran for 14 seasons, season 14, episode 15, The Hunter, which aired in 1973. We're going from 1959 to 1973. But the next episode will be The Wish, season 10, episode 23. You get these episodes earlier if you are a patron, so go support us at patreon.com/Cordkillers. Give till it helps us be able to do more. So thank you for supporting us, and we'll see you next time on The Full Experience.